When's the last time you were sleeping?
Oh, what year is this?
Hello and welcome to Time and Again. Jerry Garcia was many things. A gifted musician with an unmistakable style and a passion for bluegrass and folk music. A free spirit with a self-destructive streak. A reluctant leader to a tribe of worshipful fans. Fans of the Grateful Dead, of course. Garcia's band of almost 30 years, right up until his death on August 9th, 1995. Surviving members of the Dead have now reunited, calling themselves the Other Ones, after a classic Dead song, and conjuring up memories of a band, a time, a phenomenon like no other in the history of popular music. On this episode of Time and Again, memories of Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead, a band that emerged from the very heart of the psychedelic 60s and embarked on a journey through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, collecting new fans each step of the way. The Dead offered more than music. At a Grateful Dead concert, you could be a free spirit for a few hours, a member of a tribe, a deadhead. NBC's Gene Shalit interviewed Jerry Garcia in 1981, the midpoint of the Dead's 30-year journey.
The Grateful Dead, I will not blow it. The Grateful Dead are, is, and will be, have been, and are will America's most enduring rock music group. Their leader, Jerry Garcia, has been called by the Los Angeles Times one of the most intelligent and articulate of all rock stars. Look at him. The Grateful Dead grew in the drug scene of the Haight Ashbury section of San Francisco in the 1960s. For 15 years, still going strong, 5 originals, still with the band. Look how healthy they look here.
Yeah.
Special treat for us this morning is Papa Bear himself, Jerry Garcia. Good morning.
Howdy.
You go to sleep last night?
No.
When's the last time you were sleeping?
Oh, what year is this?
I was talking to a deadhead. The deadhead is the name of one of the confederacy of young people who follow these people all over the country.
Right.
And he saw you in a concert recently, and he said, the sound was so enormous that I thought I was going to go deaf. And then I said, if Jerry Garcia can do this almost every night or 3 times a week or whenever, and he's not deaf,
what?
I won't go deaf.
Sorry.
How do you play at that frantic volume and sustain any kind of rational mind?
It's like a dog hanging his head out a car window.
You love it?
Yeah.
What would happen if you played music without all that sound? Would the music sound totally different?
Well, only the first 3 or 4 people would hear it.
That's why you play loud for the cheap guys in the back row?
Pretty much,
Huh?
yeah. That's what all that stuff's about. You know.
You started out in the 1960s in San Francisco. You were one of the Ken Kesey people. There was a lot of drugs. Do you feel any kind of a sense of responsibility for the use of drugs by lots of young kids who wanted to emulate their hero, you?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't feel a sense of personal responsibility. Mostly because I've avoided, or I've tried to avoid, telling people what to do or not do.
So you're not an advocate?
No.
What you do yourself?
That's exactly right, yeah.
There's a quote, you played at night in front of the Great Pyramids in Egypt, and it was a night of a lunar eclipse, and you said, it was wonderful. No cops and no parents.
Yeah, right.
Is
a
that
friend of
kind
mine
of
actually said that.
Huh?
It's a real great description of Egypt.
Is it a great description of how you would like to feel all the time? Are you like a kid who wants the parents to go away for the week and leave you alone in the house?
Pretty much, yeah.
You have had no media hype. You've never had any really big hit singles. You've never had a platinum album, even, for goodness sake.
Makes you wonder what we have had.
What have you had? What keeps you going? You're the oldest rock group in the country. Why do these kids travel thousands, literally, of miles to hear your concert?
I think because we make an effort to treat them decently and to play honestly for them, rather than put on some sort of packaged, prearranged, predetermined show or some showbiz formula. And that might have something to do with it, but I don't know. I mean, I can't say exactly what it is. If I knew that, I'd be running the world.
Well, one thing that's different from most rock groups and the Grateful Dead is that when you give 6 concerts in 6 nights, a lot of the kids go back all 6 times because they say to me that no 2 concerts are alike.
It's true.
Do you even know yourself what you're going to do when the concert begins?
No, we don't. We don't bring a set list on stage. We don't plan things. We don't. Do
you improvise while you're playing a great deal?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'd say our music was in the high 80s in terms of improvisation.
This is the first look anywhere of the new Grateful Dead album. Is the name of the album just The Grateful Dead?
No, it's Reckoning, the little fine...
I see, you're very modest. Your name is pretty big. The name of the album is down on the bottom. That's coming out in about 2 months.
Yeah.
Now, when you make a
Maybe
record like this, you just go in the studio and improvise?
No, this record is live stuff from when we did this stretch at the Radio City Music Hall in the Fox Warfield in San Francisco. We did long theater run sort of performance rather than the big one-nighters. So it gave us an opportunity to live record in a kind of a lab situation, a repeatable situation in which we didn't have to strike the set every night, so to speak.
So you think 10 years from now you're still going to be playing with the Grateful Dead?
Yeah, probably. I mean, 10 years ago I wouldn't have thought I'd be doing it now, and here it is now, and it seems as though we're just getting started all the time. You know, really, you know, 15 years is not a significant number to me, really.
I wish you another good 15 years, and I wish all the Deadheads continue to enjoy your music. Jerry Garcia, don't get up, you might fall asleep. Thank you very much.
The Grateful Dead was a band like no other, and it had a following like no other. Not just the casual fans who caught a concert once in a while, but Deadheads, the hardcore devotees who considered the Dead more than entertainment. They considered it a very way of life. NBC's Linda Ellerby had a look at the phenomenon in 1983.
For me, the music is the whole thing, you know, and the audience could be one person or a million, really. And I'm assuming they're keeping up, you know what I mean?
1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. Is that
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
A communal sense of adventure between band and fan. Fan isn't strong enough, Deadhead is the name and the game. More than 2 million people pay to see and hear them every year, after year, after year.
I've been following them for 17 years, and I moved from the Bronx to California to come see them.
I came from Washington State down to these concerts, and this is the 17th concert I've seen on this tour.
About 12.
Why?
Because they make me happier than anything else in the whole world.
More than several seasons and many moons have passed since the 60s psychedelic San Francisco scene gave them the reason to play and to play with what they call misfit power.
We were a social configuration of some kind before we were a band. It's one of the things that's given us tremendous strength, really, sort of our community strength, you know, is based on that our roots are back in that strictly good times, you know, basic hippies, without any kind of motive or purpose. You know? We were lucky to have a little experimental moment in history, and we had no reputation. Nobody was paying to see us or anything like that, and the authoritarian world didn't have that paranoid thing that it has, and that characterizes so much of it now.
I wish I was a headlight on a northbound train. I wish I was a headlight on a northbound train.
We're really thankful to the Dead because they give us hippies some reason to gather, you know.
Hippie. You actually hear the word hippie used here. So it seemed like a fair question to ask.
How old were you in 1968?
I guess I was 8 years old.
I was, let's see, 9. 6.
5, 6. They're remarkably similar to the audience 10 or 15 years ago. They're the same people, you know. We're the same folks, too. We got more wrinkles than they do.
The whole thing is being able to stay interested, you know. The music business has never really taken us very seriously, which is just as well.
We went for it. I mean, we tried to sell out, no one was buying, and all that kind of stuff. It's not going to happen.
How old are you, Mickey?
I'm 40.
You figure you'll be a rock and roll band player at 50?
As long as I can breathe and as long as we can play together and have fun, we'll grow old with the music and music will grow old with us, and there's no reason why you can't play until you drop, you know, and That would be a good way of going. You know, I'd rather do that than dropping in front of a TV drinking beer or something, you know. Anyway, this music is medicine, and it makes me young, feels good, real good.
We'll do it until they drag us away.
Sometimes the lights fall shining on me. Other times I can barely see. Bleeding in the dirt to be.
When we come back, the trip continues. Garcia and the Dead through the 80s and beyond.
We appeal to a certain kind of people with a sense of adventure.
It's a spirit. That's what the Grateful Dead's all about. It's spirit.
Even the Grateful Dead have trouble explaining the Grateful Dead, a psychedelic hangover from the 60s. If so, why do their fans, Deadheads, stick around all these years? We'll drop back 20 years to the Haight Ashbury.
Now, the nickname is Ashberries. Hippieville, of course, has a code.
It wasn't the code as much as it was the fact of the hippies and bands like the Grateful Dead and guitarists like Jerry Garcia.
You know, we were the first weird people that a lot of those people ever saw.
I've been playing with this outfit in one form or another since I was about 16. We were playing in a jug band, and that more or less turned into a rock and roll band.
But a hit rock and roll band that's never had a hit record, a hit band, some people say, cannot even play the same song at the same time.
You can't please everybody.
Well, maybe you can't please everybody, but questions about why this band has lasted, can it play in tune, can its members sing, they might be of interest to an historian. Those questions will not be of interest to the people who will fill the Greek Theater here tonight.
This is what Deadheads are.
Berkeley is packed with them today, and they, the Deadheads, are packed for the tour. Tonight is only the beginning.
We'll all leave here and we'll go to Alpine Valley, Wisconsin, and then going to Cincinnati, going to Ohio, then on the East Coast tour. And then coming back here for Ventura shows in July. We're Jerry's kids.
They're my hobby and my quote-unquote religion.
Yuppie Deadheads, or grown-up Deadheads at least, growing old with a band that either keeps on changing or never has changed. If rehearsal for tonight seems improvisational, well, consider the band, the audience, and the place. Garcia does.
They seem to quite understand that idea, that idea of music as something special that could happen. That's one of the things about America. At least we can be the Grateful Dead.
Linda Ellerby, NBC News, Berkeley.
That was 1985. The Grateful Dead was well on its way to becoming an American institution. A couple of years later, they even had a hit record. We'll be back with that part of the story when Time and Again continues.
Sugar magnolia, blossoms blooming, heads all empty and I don't care.
By 1987, the Grateful Dead had been around since before many of their younger fans had even been born. The band prospered outside the confines of mainstream music, becoming something of an industry itself in the process. Then something unexpected happened. The band had its first and only hit record. They even made a video.
Kind of a general complaint kind of song. It's if things are going really badly, but that's okay. We're still holding up. You know, that's kind of what it expresses.
It's all right. Oh, well, a touch of green kind of suits you anyway. And that was all I had to say. It's all right.
Even though you are steadfast to certain other principles, you made a video.
Yes, we made a video, right.
So shocking in a way.
Well, but the video now has gotten to be a regular accompaniment to, you know, it's industry stuff. But we've been kind of, about 20 or 30 miles to the left of the industry for the last 7 or 8 or 20 years, you know.
This new Grateful Dead tour, it will have been 20 years since the Monterey Pop Festival, which was considered a stellar event in pop music
We
history.
played badly there.
Tell me what you remember.
We played really badly there. Well, that was one of our classic bad scenes. We came on the stage just after The Who finished smashing their equipment for the first time in America, you know what I mean? This was, the audience was devastated, you know. The Who were beautifully theatrical and stuff, and there's clouds of smoke and explosions, and they're clearing away the debris, you know. So we come out and play our little set, you know, ding, 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 and then Jimi Hendrix comes on after us and annihilates any remnant of any, you know, I mean, if anybody noticed this, that was it, you know, it was erased from existence, and I was like, oh, come on, you know, that was where we were on the show. It didn't pan out for us.
When you guys are out there on stage performing however many hundreds of nights a year you perform and you're playing, what keeps it fresh after 20 years? You're used to looking at each other in the eye, you know your cues, you know your signals. What
well,
is
I don't think any one of us
wholesale short-term memory loss.
Yeah, I don't think any one of us are stable enough to.
None of us remember what we used to do.
We're not very stable, you know, and so we don't relate the same way each night.
We don't observe show business formulas. And we play mostly, or an awful lot of what we do, possibly 80% of what we do is improvised. We make it up as we go along.
We take all of our Jerry's bluegrass and country and my space and jazz and percussion stuff and whatever we all have to offer, fill orchestrations, bring it to the Grateful Dead, make it fly.
Yeah, it works because of the difference in everybody's perspective of what the music is supposed to be like. Since we all see it differently, you know, it's one of those things. It's but we all know it when it happens. Yeah. It's like a thing you recognize. That's what we've come to over the years.
It doesn't take direction from any one person. It sort of directs itself when it works right. It's sort of one of those good kind of things that develops as you go along.
Deadhead is that person, wherever they turn up in society, that's looking for an adventure in America, you know, something to do that's not like what everybody else does, and a chance to get out and scare themselves a little.
We will get by. We will get by. We will survive.
Do you sit around and scratch your head and go, oh my God, this thing is still happening and there's more fans than there were last year? And you played to, you know, 800,000 people and it just becomes more and more
We were
amazing.
amazed the first time there was more of them than us. You know what I mean? They used to walk out in droves.
But after a while you saw what the music did to the people, and then once you saw that, I knew at least that if we stayed around long enough that a lot of people will listen to it because I knew it was
we get good at it.
Yeah, we would get good at it too.
Eventually, it only took 22 years.
Yeah, it's a long, long.
Now we're starting to get a handle on it.
We will survive.
The Grateful Dead showing more than a little touch of gray in 1987. When we come back, trucking into the 90s and the end of the line for Jerry Garcia.
They are the object of the most fanatically long-lived devotion ever accorded a rock and roll band. They are the Grateful Dead.
I will get by. I will get by.
What do you think accounts for the band's vitality, which has become even more so in the last couple of years? Isn't that amazing?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Clean living.
Yeah, that's it. Right. That's it. We live by these words.
So successful has the Grateful Dead become that Forbes magazine recently ranked them just below Frank Sinatra. At $25 million, they were one of the highest earners in the entertainment business last year.
I mean, it's not as though we take home huge bundles of gold, you know, and
big sacks.
Oh, here's my share of the 25 million. You know, it costs us a lot of money to do what we do, so it's really everything kind of stays about the same. We make more money and hire more people because we need a larger production to be able to reach the amount of audience which we now have, and so on and so on. So while the earnings go up, so do all the expenditures and everything else, and it really doesn't, it hasn't, I don't have my gold-plated Rolls Royce yet.
To call Deadheads loyal to the band is almost an understatement. They follow the band on tour and have genuinely created their own culture, to some, almost a religion.
Well, it's the energy. It's the contact with whatever you call God in your life. I've many times meditated during songs and connected with that otherness in the universe.
Basically, they focus a lot of energy on us, and we articulate it for them and give it back to them, and that increases their whatever it is that's cooking out there, and more energy bubbles off of them and it comes to us, and we re-articulate it back.
It's a public service. Yeah. It's a public service, you know. It's like there's some people want to have an enjoyment ritual in their lives where they go and have a great time and feel good about stuff, and it helps them. It helps you in your life.
After nearly a quarter-century, almost no one is more surprised than the Grateful Dead that they're still around, with a new album they consider their best to date and a tour that keeps them on the road hundreds of nights a year. For the Grateful Dead, the unlikely heroes of rock and roll, the journey continues. For today, Rona Elliott, NBC News, Marin County, California.
Welcome back to Time and Again, as we spend a little time with the Grateful Dead over the years by way of the NBC News archives. The 60s died 1,000 deaths, but a benign little corner of those times could always be found at a Grateful Dead concert. Through the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s, the Dead offered a haven for free spirits, a bohemian lifestyle, if only for a few hours. NBC's Keith Morrison took the trip in 1991.
About 8 o'clock on a warm night in Bonner Springs, Kansas, and an itty-bitty pretty one whirls in her tie-dye and an old man grins at the sky. The service has begun, this strange, happy worship at the throne of the Grateful Dead. It is their 26th year, and still they roll on town to town, the tribe swelling like a three-generational psychedelic quilt. What is it? Why is it? Who knows?
It is American music.
It's happy music.
Happy music.
And dance.
The Grateful Dead, in case you've been out of touch, was San Francisco's LSD-inspired hippie house band, dancing down a parallel universe behind a young black beard named Jerry Garcia, whose beard isn't black anymore. But while those other 60s bright lights burned out, these survive. Wakely, to their own immense surprise, getting bigger and bigger.
Clean living.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. We live by these words.
There have always been rumors about all manner of druggish craziness, and the aroma is as thick as the crowd is mellow. Yet back in there somewhere is a band-sponsored drug treatment crew. What's it all about?
I'm a banker. Nice conservative image, huh?
And he's not alone. There's the professor, the contractor, the aircraft executive, pillars of the community, really secret deadheads.
It feels like I've gone back in time.
In the office, they make fun of me. They're probably the oldest living deadhead around.
Oh, no, he's not. And the new generation follows them around weeks and months on end.
I got a little red rooster. You need to lay to the crooked.
The music is as unpredictable as ever was a bee in. A little bit of everything and almost never the same.
I got a little red rooster.
Sometimes it even works. And out in the crowd, a forest of microphones strains to catch the perfect riff. And after 26 years, the musicians still plant themselves before their adoring crowd in utter terror.
I have stage fright, performance anxiety, or whatever you want to call it, about as much as the human spirit can endure.
So what is it? A new yearning for the 60s? A time warp?
No problems, low tension, laid back, good time, free-spirited.
Hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now.
Something's happening here, and if what it is isn't exactly clear, it's certainly a happily growing parade on its long, strange journey, dancing by the light of the moon. Keith Morrison, NBC News, Bonner Springs, Kansas.
The Grateful Dead proved that being counterculture didn't have to mean being exclusive. Anyone could be a Deadhead. It was not a matter of age or fashion. It was a state of mind. Here's an example. Grateful Dead drummer Mickey Hart getting some senior citizens into the spirit in 1992.
Would you like a drum? Here's a mallet for you. These are just frame drums. You can have some fun today. Like this. All we need is a drum, a circle, and somebody to say it's okay to make noise together, you know, and share a rhythm. Rhythm is the basis of life. When you have rhythm and you play and you make a rhythm of your own, you come alive. Here's the old folks forgetting their pains and their aches and their troubles and moving into the altered states, you know. Certainly there was rapture in the circle. You can see what happened. They released all their adrenaline and their inhibitions, and they created something from nothing, you know, and they weren't on the TV set, and they weren't feeling sorry for themselves, and the blood was running. This is what it's all about, joy, you know, that's what music is about. This is what my whole life has led up to, you know. This is a gift that's been given me, and I'm just passing it on to them. Celebrate yourself. Give yourself a big hand.
When we come back, talk about a long, strange trip. What brings the Grateful Dead to Washington, D.C.?
Come hear Uncle John's band playing to the tide.
It may seem strange to call the Grateful Dead traditionalist, but that's what they were in many ways. They did without the trappings of rock stardom. They cared about quality and integrity. They honored the past. In March 1993, the Dead's Mickey Hart was in Washington, D.C., drumming up support for his project to preserve the sounds of endangered cultures. He talked about it with NBC's Lucky Severson.
There are easily tens of thousands of hours of music stored in this building, maybe even hundreds of thousands of hours.
When he started the project, scholars told him it would be almost impossible, but it was a labor of love for Mickey Hart, percussionist for the legendary rock and roll band, the Grateful Dead.
Roll away the dew. Roll away the dew. Roll away, roll away.
And here they are in the Great Hall of the Library of Congress with an assortment of deadheads and congresspeople like Senator Patrick Leahy.
Well, it used to be about the only U.S. senators you'd ever see at a Grateful Dead concert were myself and Al Gore.
This is not a Dead concert. They're here to honor the drum beat of the Grateful Dead, the man who chases sound and wants to share it.
I was a remote recordist. In the 60s, I started seeing these cultures, the precarious nature of these cultures, and the music part of it was falling off the side of the world. You know, it was just disappearing one by one.
And then he discovered that the Library of Congress had thousands of hours of the sounds of endangered cultures collecting dust.
And I thought that everyone should be able to hear this. Not a few scholars, but the people for which it was intended.
So he sifted through 80 hours of scratchy field recordings of the most endangered cultures.
The best way to understand a culture is through its music, because all of their stories, their folk tales, their legends, their history as a people, their ancestors' dreams, everything is contained in the music. We base all of our music now, this popular Western music, on these traditions. This is where it all comes from. You know, the diaspora from Africa, from the indigenous music from South America, from the Native American music. This is the roots, the blues. You know, it came up through New Orleans, the parishes of New Orleans, and it mutated into Dixieland and jazz and big band and
rock and roll.
It's been his odyssey, but he has received plenty of moral support from other members of the band, like Jerry Garcia and Bob Weir, who have devoted so much of their music to the cause of the environment.
We'll never get far from what we
The music that we're playing now is all derived. It's all derivative. It's derivative from all of this earth music. And, you know, you can call it whatever you want. Folk music or, you know, people music or anything. You call it cultural treasure or anything. But it is, in fact, what humans do.
What started out as an intellectual pursuit for Mickey Hart turned into a very personal mission.
They're reaching out, they're crying out for help.
You can hear
That's
it
what
in the
this
music?
Oh, you can in the music, absolutely. The sound carries the message.
The messenger is determined to keep it alive. For today, I'm Lucky Severson, NBC News, Washington.
The Grateful Dead's Mickey Hart, honoring tradition and preserving the past in 1993. And as long as we're standing up for old-fashioned values, how about a rendition of the national anthem, Grateful Dead style? It happened at San Francisco's Candlestick Park on April 12, 1993.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Play ball. The Grateful Dead singing for the home team in 1993. When we come back, getting back to basics with Jerry Garcia, not long before his death.
All the roll, the till, the tall, the CKW's a cause a roll to find me.
The Grateful Dead has always conjured up images of tie-dyed hippies and psychedelic music. In fact, Jerry Garcia was a lifelong devotee of folk music, bluegrass, traditional music. That's where much of the Dead's music came from, as well as many of Garcia's solo recordings, including one with mandolinist David Grisman in 1993.
Freight train, run so fast. Freight train, run so fast. Please don't tell what train I'm on. I won't know what line I'm gone.
Not exactly the kind of sound you'd expect from the grand old man of the Grateful Dead, Jerry Garcia, and from one of the world's most skilled mandolin players, David Grisman.
The songs are easy.
Right, that's one of the good parts about it.
You mean easy to sing?
They're easy in the sense that there's not much to them.
They're easy in the sense that they're easy. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? They're
Yeah, like they
easy,
have two chords.
Yeah.
And not very many words.
When I die, oh, bury me, babe, down at the end of old Chestnut Street, where I can hear old number 9 as she goes rolling by.
It's music they learned 30 years ago, songs they want to pass on, uncluttered and unchanged.
They're simple tunes, and we played them pretty simple, and although we didn't try to make anything dumb.
No, right. We didn't make, you're right.
You know, 'tis a gift to be simple.
Will you wear blue, oh my dear, oh my dear? Will you wear blue, Jenny Jenkins?
No, I won't wear blue, 'cause the color's too true. I'll buy me a foldy-roll, the tilly-tall, the CKW's a cause a roll to find me.
So these two world-class musicians who met long before they were famous and who share a love of music of all kinds conspired to make an album for kids of all ages. It's called Not for Kids Only.
It's not just for kids, it's for anybody who can dig it. And besides, the music is for everybody.
Where do you stop being a kid and start
being a person?
But they had kids in mind when they recorded Not for Kids Only in the basement studio of David Grisman's home. He has always been a champion of acoustic music, and he and Garcia have been unplugging together long before it was cool. They wanted to record the traditional stuff, the folklore of the country, the songs so many kids and grown-ups never hear anymore, the way they were written, not abridged or revised. These are songs they had known but never played, taken out of old songbooks.
Yes, sir. Yeah, some of these songs do have, they have teeth, they have stuff, they have bad guys in them, and they have strange experiences in them, and they have some out-and-out weirdness in them, and yeah, why not? I think kids like that kind of stuff. Grateful Dead music has some of that in it, some jug band music and that sort of old style street corner music.
Part of the proceeds from Not for Kids Only will be donated to a fund that helps families with kids that have life-threatening illnesses. The little boy of one of the musicians who had such an illness died while the album was being made. For today, I'm Lucky Severson, NBC News.
That was October 1993. A few months later, a milestone for the Grateful Dead, induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The 90s looked like a promising time for the Dead. The band had never been more popular. And Jerry Garcia, who had had a history of health problems, was cleaning up his act, working out, trimming down, cutting back on smoking. But there was one habit he could not or would not shake, his addiction to heroin. Jerry Garcia died on August 9th, 1995, 8 days after his 53rd birthday.
We would all like to be able to live an uncluttered life, a simple life, a good life, you know, and like think about moving the whole human race ahead a step or a few steps. And, or half a step. Yeah, or a half a step or anything.
Towards the end of his life, the grueling tour schedules, the cigarettes, the drugs, the overeating, and the alcohol took their toll on Garcia. At times, concerts were canceled because of his poor health. And last night, Garcia was remembered for his music in candlelight vigils across the country.
We do this because of his music. He brings us together in harmony and peace.
For Jerry Garcia, it was indeed a long, strange trip. But to his fans, it was not nearly long enough. For today, George Lewis, NBC News, Los Angeles.
When we come back, fans and band members remember Jerry Garcia. And what next for the Grateful Dead?
Take your heart, take your faith, and reflect back some of the joy that he gave you.
The psychedelic sounds and sights filled the air in San Francisco's Golden Gate Park as thousands gathered to honor the memory of Jerry Garcia.
Take your dead heads and you take them home and you do something with all this. We didn't do this for nothing, you know.
Remembering Jerry Garcia 5 days after his death in August 1995. For the surviving band members, the question remained, what would become of the Grateful Dead? The answer came 4 months later, and it was no surprise. The Dead would be no more.
For 30 years, the Grateful Dead has called the tune for the counterculture. By pop standards, their albums weren't huge sellers, but their concerts have been consistently in the top 5 concert draws in the U.S. for the last 10 years. Last year, the band grossed $50 million playing the long, freewheeling concerts for which they were famous. Those concerts are now history. Dead fans who fear the band will disappear need not worry. The band has more than 1,000 hours of taped concerts in its archives. The Dead will continue to release records and videos. They just won't play together as the Grateful Dead anymore. Band members will pursue solo projects like guitarist Bob Weir, now touring with his band Rat Dog. And while the band members may come together to play now and then, they all acknowledge after Jerry Garcia's death, something was missing and it was time to move on. In San Francisco, Noel Cisneros for NBC News.
The Grateful Dead was gone, but its surviving members would carry on. 2 of them, Bob Weir and Mickey Hart, spoke about the future with NBC's Jody Applegate in 1996.
wasn't for everybody, but for the people who it was for, it was powerful medicine, and it was a healing agent, and it healed the soul, it healed a part of society.
Other times, forgotten space. Your eyes looked from your mother's face.
We discovered a couple of people with mutual interests, the pursuit of music in an adventurous sort of way.
May the fall winds roll you home again. Roll away the dew.
There's always been something magical about a Grateful Dead concert. The music was important, but it was much more than that. It was a celebration of life. A lot of people thought that magic was lost the day that Jerry Garcia died, but they were wrong.
What the Grateful Dead did and what it will continue to do still remains to be seen, because it'll be in the memory and in the deeds of people who have been touched by that music for generations.
Jerry is still very much alive in a million different ways. And it's almost absurd to me to sit and mope over our tragic loss. Jerry was an unbelievable blessing for all of us, the years that we had with him. Now let's take something and make something of that.
My eyes light up, you call my name.
Guitarist Bob Weir is singing the blues with his new band, Rat Dog.
I feel like I have a little torch to carry here, and that might put some wind in my sails.
It's the spirit that we bring to this music. Jerry won't be there, but the spirit will.
And the spirit that is the legacy of the Grateful Dead might bring the remaining members together to play again.
With more original members of the Grateful Dead gone now than not, I don't see how we can call it the Grateful Dead. Still, we can play together, and we may.
That was June 1996. 2 years later, Weir, Hart, and other bandmates have regrouped, not as the Grateful Dead, but as the Other Ones, taking the name from a classic song in the Dead repertoire. More than 30 years later, and without Jerry Garcia, the long, strange trip continues. That's Time and Again for now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jane Pauly, and we're history.
Going home by the waterside, I will rest my bones. Listen to the river sing sweet songs to rock my soul.